Good evening, everyone. I'm Isha Datta, SAS woman of Kolkata, and I welcome you to an amazing session on a lovely wintry evening with renowned food and travel writer Karen Anand. Today is special because it is the second episode of Choupal in Kolkata, being held at a beautiful venue at the house of a very multifaceted personality, Shamlu Dudeja, fondly we call her Shamlu Auntie. Thank you, Shamlu Auntie, for your warm hospitality. Karen Anand will engage in a conversation with Malika Verma, SAS woman of Kolkata as well, and of course daughter of Shamlu Dudeja. Today's event, in association with SAS Women of Kolkata, is supported by our patrons Sri Cement Limited as their CSR initiative. Before we start this wonderful conversation, allow me to say a few words about the Prabha Khaitan Foundation and its cultural initiative, Choupal. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is a Kolkata-based non-profit trust and is recognized as an organization that creates the finest literary and cultural experiences on the global map. The foundation was established by eminent Indian literati, entrepreneur, philanthropist, social activist and feminist, late Dr. Prabha Khaitan, back in the 1980s. The foundation is the custodian of the literary traditions and heritage of India. The foundation has a kaleidoscope range of boutique initiatives that encourage the literary and cultural marvels of the nation. With our vision to work for a better tomorrow, we endeavor to reach out to more people and enrich their lives with stimulating and intellectual conversations on life, literature, and cultural diversities. The foundation flagged off its journey of Choupal in the city of Jaipur, the cultural and literary hub of India. Its prized initiative, Choupal, is inspired by the traditional Indian sit and talk sessions, inspired by the rural community space or Choupal, where hearings and functions are held. Eminent audiences get to have an informal and intimate interaction with renowned individuals who have made a mark in their respective fields of work. Rendezvous with Karen Anand is always special, and I feel delighted to welcome you all to another enjoyable session. Karen Anand was born in Bombay but grew up in London and studied in Paris. She has a degree from the Sussex University and diplomas from the Sorbonne, École des Sciences Politiques, and the École de Louvre in Paris. She returned to India in 1984 and decided to dabble in cooking, until then a hobby, which eventually turned into a path-breaking career. In the late 1980s, unable to find halfway decent European food outside five-star hotels, she set up a salad bar, first in Pune and then in Bombay. Both were runaway successes and the first of their kind in the country. This was the beginning of what was to be a life of extensive travel, visiting gourmet shops, markets and food fairs wherever she went. A prolific author with 20 books under her belt, she also hosted The Good Food Guide, a 52-episode travel food show for Star TV, the first of its kind in India in 1995, followed by Cook Na Kaho, Don't Call Me a Cook, also for Star TV, and a 12-part mini-series on Mumbai restaurants for Trendmill CNBC. Conversation with Malika Verma is an SAS woman of Kolkata. She's a successful professional and a great cultural enthusiast, and is of course carrying forward the tradition of Katha, which her mother started. So without much delay, let's start the conversation. Over to you, Malika.
Thank you, Isha. I've never been introduced as a conversationalist, so thank you for that. And do grab your chai, because would you like some tea, Karen? Sudeshna? Okay, somebody can help. So it's always very special for me to chat with Karen. I think she came into my life when I was LSG president, I don't remember how many years ago, like a breath of fresh air, and has managed to remain that flowery, breezy breath, or let us say, not really breath. I think now she's become like a gust of typhoon. So one of the things which also we share in common is our love for Kolkata. And she actually loves Bengali food, and in her words, which is Bengali food is executed with much care to detail, served course-wise, and can be compared with French sophistication. So Karen, instead of, introducing you more and going more into your year-by-year things, I'm just going to sort of pick up the things which I know best about you.
Yep.
And hopefully that will get us an insight into your character and what you've done for the food world.
Well, let's start off with Bengali food since I'm learning more and more from my friends here. And my new book that's out, we couldn't have it here today because I'm officially launching the book which is called Masala Mem Sahib, and it's my kind of magnum opus to Indian food and recipes that I've collected over the last 30 years. So I have a chapter on West Bengal, and the recipe images of the book are done by the photographers here, Madhushree and India. It was a real challenge because it was COVID and lockdown, so it's a lockdown book. And we were doing art direction over, I think, WhatsApp, Zoom, all sorts of things. I think it came out very well. So it's a very visual book. And when I get asked, because we've already launched it in Goa and Delhi and Bangalore. So the first question I get asked is, which is your favorite chapter? Because there are 6 chapters in the book. And, the first chapter is Goan because people don't really know where I'm from. Sometimes I have a problem as well because we have so much of a cocktail in our family. But I am by heritage from Goa. And so Goa was the first alphabet also in the book. So it kind of made sense to start with that. But West Bengal is not far behind. And for me, it's a learning. Every time I come here, I find new dishes. Mother-in-law taught me, where are you, fantastic vegetarian food when I came here to cover actually seafood dishes for the BBC Good Food, for which I wrote many years ago. And when I got here, the management of the BBC Good Food, who were the Times gents, all of a sudden decided to make the magazine vegetarian overnight. And I literally landed and met Mother-in-law in the lobby of the Taj and said, what am I going to do? I was going to write on fish and seafood and this whole Hilsa story, and now we have to write on vegetarian. And she said, no problem. We've got so many vegetarian dishes in Bengali cuisine. So that opened up a whole other nest of things. And so I think it's a discovery for me. I love the juxtaposition of this city. I love the old, the new, the people, I think, are what makes the city still tick. And of course, the sophistication. Everyone's a foodie here. Everyone's into food. Even if they don't cook, they know food. And I think that's what is exciting about Calcutta.
What would be the special taste or the delicacy, or is there something which is really one of your favorites in Bengal? I know puchka. I saw
Puchka. I love panch foran. When I go abroad, I carry my masalas. I've learnt, and I've had too many bad experiences where I've gone abroad and people say, "Oh, can you do an Indian meal for us?" And I have nothing with me. And this happened to me when I was in Bali 10, 15 years ago, and we stayed with somebody by chance. And I said, what can I do for you? I haven't brought you a gift, and by the time I get back, I can send it. And he said, no, can you do me an Indian meal? And it was a disaster in that I had to get a taxi and go all around Bali looking for ingredients. So now what I do is I carry my little portlies with me, like an old lady, and I carry a Kolhapuri spice, I carry a Malwani spice, I carry panch foran. Because I think panch foran is amazing in whatever you put it with, any vegetable. I go to Italy, they don't know what it is, but I just throw in a little bit. Of course, there's no mustard oil there, but I throw in panch foran to things. So I think what I love about, to answer your question, about the Bengali palette of tastes and spices is the balance. I think you have a great balance here, and also, unlike North India, and there you will see in the book there's a sort of I don't look at North India at all, really, because I think it's been done to death. But it's not overshadowed with red chili. Otherwise, the rest of the country, there's red chili everywhere, and there's, a lot of red chili, and more red chili as we need more flavor in our food. So, but you don't have that here.
So my Bengali brother-in-law told me that I think Panjus have no taste buds. They put everything on the plate together and take a roti and eat everything together. How can you do that? So I was like, okay, never thought of it like that. But Karen reminds me of her favorite signature dish, Malabar prawns. Feisty and full of zing. She's like, whenever you meet her, there's never a dull moment. She wears so many hats, and there's always an opinion, and a very strong opinion on the hats that she wears, which is that of a connoisseur, a writer, a chef, a critic, a gourmet guru, a restaurateur, I'm getting tired, a consultant, and an entrepreneur. And it goes on. I'm just, cutting it short. So, which is your favorite hat? And how do you do all this? I mean, I know it's all food related, but you're always somewhere doing something, opening a restaurant, writing something, cooking. Her meals at home are just delicious, so elaborate. So which is the favorite?
Well, I think because we live in India, luckily we have support. I think the support system for women in India of people like, not everybody, of course, but I think that makes a difference. I see people like me abroad, and it's difficult because you've got to come home and do the cooking and the dishwasher and everything else and looking after your kids. Here we have some amount of support, which is great. Secondly is, of course, a supportive family, and I think you have to have that here. If you don't have a supportive family, it's impossible. My mother still lives in London, and when I was traveling abroad, she used to come. I used to say, I call her the international babysitter. She used to come from London, stay with me for 2 months while I traveled, looked after my children, and even though there was a nanny and all that, so that I could do what I did. So I think support is very important. In all of that, I love writing, because I think I could write till I drop dead. I don't think I'll retire from writing. Cooking, I don't call myself a chef, because unlike chefs who have trained for many, many years and had that rigorous training in a kitchen, in a commercial kitchen, which is a very, very hard place. It's not an easy place. There's long hours, there's lots of swearing and throwing things. I mean, I worked with a Japanese chef who'd actually throw knives, not at me, but, at each other. They actually threw knives. And, it's not a nice place. So, I haven't grown up in that space. So I don't dare call myself a chef. I'm a home cook. And then when I needed to learn, I went into a French restaurant that was a Michelin restaurant. I worked with them for 3 weeks. I worked somewhere else for a few weeks. But I don't think I'm a chef. But of all the chefs, the entrepreneurship is difficult. All of that, I think writing is what I love to do.
You started your career as a columnist, writing about international cuisines in the 90s. And today she has an illustrious career of 20 books. What makes you bring out the food from the kitchen into the world? What made you do it? I mean, for me, even if I follow your recipes, I can never manage them. But was it for people like us? Was it for people like us, or was it just,
Yeah, I think, when I came back, it's an opportunity. When I came back to India, I came back in '84, and I really couldn't find something to do which I had, studied. I'd studied a bit of art at the École de Louvre. I studied international relations. I spoke French and Russian because I thought I would continue living in Europe and probably was interested in a job in the UN. And that's what I thought I was going to do. And fate had otherwise, and I came back to India and met someone and married them and was in India. So I thought, what can I do? And he needed a lot of entertaining, so I did that. And in those days, now of course we have five-star hotels and so many standalones. But I'm talking about the mid-80s. And I give this little example. In Bombay, we had button mushrooms available in 2 shops in Bombay. One was Cafe Galleries in Breach Candy and one was Rustam's in Colaba. Now, as you all know, mushrooms are on every single dhaba menu. Forget, they're something that, we've come a long way. And of course, European food really hadn't come out of the closet then at all. So I just started cooking at home and people went, lots of applause. And I said, let me try and do this in a bit more of a professional way. And that's how it started.
Was it related to any special food memory from your childhood? Is there something which really, growing up?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think the urge came from. I always liked the idea of restaurants, and of course, anyone who's had a restaurant knows it's not an easy thing to do. My mother never cooked at all. She had to cook when she went to
that was my
England.
next question.
Oh, poor thing. She hated cooking. She thought it was just. I think that whole generation hates cooking. Chandu never likes cooking either, right? No, it was for women who were doing their own thing, it was like a drudgery. Why get into the kitchen when we've now been liberated from all these things, So when she went to Britain, poor thing was, completely hated the fact that she had to cook. So she became a great follower of Marks and Spencer's food. And my father, the joke in the family is that my mother had shares in Marks and Spencer's because she was in there every day buying something. It was so exciting for coming from here to get ready-made meals of quality, to get fruit and vegetable and your fruit cut for you and all these. It was expensive, but she was in there every day buying things. So, she set a great table. So it wasn't really from her. Although I do remember dishes, and there are some things in the book that my grandmother made. I didn't know her very well, but my maternal grandmother, I believe, was a great go-and cook. And she did 2 or 3 dishes that were just, I can still taste.
But did you eat? You were.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she was around.
Yeah, she was around till I was. I think she died when I visited India, and then she must have died when I was in my 20s. But I do remember her hand.
Was she responsible? How did you get into it? Was it your husband who?
No. It was actually. I'm just trying to think. It was actually when I went to Paris when I was 18. And I think Paris did it for me because I saw that same attention to detail in which I kind of talked about Bengali food. Everybody in the family, was obsessed with food, whether it was how to go to a cheese shop, how to buy cheese for that evening, how to go to a butcher's, and then the butcher would sit and talk to you for 10 minutes. Nobody does it anymore, but about what are you cooking that evening, and if you're cooking, then I will sell you this cut of meat and not that cut of meat. And there would be these conversations. And I found that in India too. And I think that got me into this whole joy of food.
You had mentioned in your early years in the kitchen, you often turned to Madhur Jaffrey's books. Would you call her an idol of sorts, and are there any other food writers and critics you follow?
Yes, there are. I think Madhur Jaffrey is extraordinary because she was at the right time, at the right place. I don't know whether you know how she started. So,
Karen, you're my only person in the cooking field who's a friend. I do not know.
Okay, so Madhur Jaffrey started, oddly enough, Syed Jaffrey, her ex-late husband, remarried a lady called Jennifer. I know this because they were in my first husband's films, and Syed was in 2 or 3 of his films, and Syed told me this, so it's true. And he said he was Jennifer when she was in. She used to work for the BBC. And one of the BBC producers said, we should have a cookery program on Indian food. And Indian was just getting popular in the UK out of that sort of curry house story. And Jennifer said, they asked Jennifer, do you know anybody? You know, this is how it happened. Do you know anybody who cooks? And she said, my husband Saeed does. And they were looking for an actor, because an actor can present, whether it's food or anything else. And there was no one really in the Indian or South Asian diaspora in the UK who could do it in those days. And then when they came to Saeed, he was a very generous person of spirit as well. And he said, look, I know 5 dishes, but I've been taught everything by my ex-wife, Madhu. And so they came to Madhu, and she's a kayast, and she had some wonderful recipes. And so Madhu, so it's all by chance, started presenting these shows. And they were very, very simple recipes at the beginning, from what I remember, you know. And I thought, that's not how you make Indian food. You would make it in a Teflon pan and put some prawns and some colour. And I thought, what's this, you know? And then as she developed, she did a lot more research and so on, and she became a guru of sorts. I mean, I used her book when I was at uni. I think it was called Taste of India or something of India, I can't remember. It was a little penguin book, and mine actually got burnt because I used to keep it on the oven, you know. And I used to use it all the time. And I think she is really invaluable, what she's brought to the table, to the UK, certainly, or to the Western world. What she's brought to the table in terms of Indian food is amazing. As far as I don't know how many foodies there are here, but other people, I like a woman called Claudia Roden. Claudia is from the Middle East, and she also lives in London, and she writes beautifully. And she is also a food historian, so she writes about food and also and cooks. Nigel Slater, these are all Western cooks more than Otto Lengi, because he does so much vegetarian. Sami Tamimi, who's his corporate chef. Nigella, the famous Nigella, whom I actually hosted when she came to India a few years ago. She's lovely as a person. Her recipes are a bit hit and miss, but I think her prose is fantastic. She's an English major, and that shows. And she writes beautifully. So yeah, these are the kind of chefs I follow. I don't really follow a lot of YouTube chefs, because I feel some of them are good and some of them aren't, and I don't have the time to do the research to find out who's good and who's bad. So it's really the old ones that I follow. But I'd be interested to know if you follow any.
Anyone follows? I think I look at everything on YouTube. All the Panjus baking kali dal, and I can't go beyond that.
There's some chefs are great. I mean, Kunal Kapoor sometimes I see on Instagram, and his quick fixes are quite nice. But I think there's not one that I particularly,
follow. Yeah, of course. So I feel that you keep coming back to Indian food, even though you've traveled so extensively. And you're so exposed. In fact, we had to see her in Italy. It was like, oh my God, I'm coming to that. But she's so, you're so exposed to the rest of the world. But I feel somewhere down in your heart, you're always coming back to Indian food.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I'm doing now with the new book, with what I'm doing in London. We opened a restaurant called Colonel Saab, to which I was consultant in 2021. That's all about Indian food. I think eventually it is about Indian food, and it's about taste. And I think that's, unfortunately the world is getting, or the produce in the whole world, is not just India or the West, produce is getting worse. In 200-300 years ago, we had fantastic vegetables, fantastic meat, everything was fantastic fish. We don't get that quality of produce anymore. It's going, because of climate change, because of all the rubbish that we're creating and doing to ourselves. So spice, I don't mean chili, I mean spice, is getting more and more important, whether it's Western food or Indian food. So I think for me, that's why I carry around my bottles. I think that's why I'm coming back to it, because I think we need to put that spice and that flavor into food even more now than we did earlier.
Now, after a 20-year career, which one of your recipes do you think has remained evergreen? And on the flip side, is there one which you would say that you improvise on regularly because you think it can get better and better?
I think my Christmas recipes are the ones that I do every year. A bit boring, but you know, the children the children who are big hulks now, look forward to it. So I do a Christmas ham.
Yes, I
every
saw
year.
that on Instagram.
I do that every year. Now my recipes change slightly. I do one which is cooked in cola. I actually cook it in Pepsi.
Really?
It's delicious. I've been cooking it many years, but now this new one.
Next time.
Next year.
No Choupal without khana.
I'll do it for you next time. So that I've been doing for many years. These little sweet potato smashes is something new.
So tell us about what I just want to share how, what you were saying, how each place the sweet potato and the chili and share that.
So this is a vegan recipe, and what we made, the little sauce I've made with it, which is a mango and chili mayonnaise, is also vegan, by the way. When I make this, whenever I've been doing my launches, we've been doing this, and when I did it in London as well for Colonel Saab, it's a simple recipe, but it relies on a sweet potato. And what I noticed today, for example, no fault of lovely caterers, is that the sweet potato quality is very different here. It's not bad or worse or better. It's just different. It has a lot of water content. And so it doesn't fry in the same way. And I found that as well with prawn balcha was one of my seasoned, or that was my grandmother's recipe. And when I did that for the launch of the book in Delhi, we did 7 recipes for the book. And I found that the masala, I came in 2 days before, luckily, and I found the masala was different. And I said, why is it like this? And I realized that the chilies were not Kashmiri chilies, which you need for this recipe. So I went to the chef and I said, listen, this is not a Kashmiri, this is, not tasting right. He showed me a big bag of chilies, which were not at all Kashmiri chilies, but it was written Kashmiri chili. So obviously the purchase manager had got these chilies. So I turned around, they couldn't understand. I turned around, I said, look, if I write Elizabeth Taylor on my chest, does it mean I'm Elizabeth Taylor? And he went, oh, okay, I got it. So I said, same, it's got Kashmiri chili, but it's not what's in the bag. And it's very funny that none of the chefs understood either, So it is difficult because India's not a country, it's a continent. So, each place, it's like saying Europe, is it going to be the same pasta in Italy as it is in England? No, it's going to change as you move.
This is a question I think which a lot of people have concern for, with so much fusion and more of a global palette, and not to say anything but the 5 stars, but the 5-star culture. Do you think the original flavors and cuisines are losing their authenticity and we're just getting used to a certain standard which, one may not have been what there was?
Yeah. I think this whole debate about authenticity is very important because it's a questionable one, because what was authentic 50 years ago was also the fact that we walked to the market, the fact that we did a lot of exercise, the fact that the ghee quality we were using is much better, the fact that everybody made things at home. So tradition, authenticity, I think, in a way has to change with time. I don't mean it has to get, prescribed into this ginger garlic paste thing, but I think it has to change slightly. Indian food has to evolve. I mean, every cuisine has evolved. Has to evolve, has to get a little bit lighter, and then maybe just keep those dishes which are heavy and delicious and whatever, it's like undiyu for the Gujaratis, or it's the kind of thing you make in winter, but if you try and make it in Boston in summer, it's going to be different. So I think we have to retain flavors, because that's part of our memory bank, but I think we have to, I'm really of the opinion things have to slightly change with the times.
So what next? What is not just a book, or what else are you thinking of which will probably have great input in our lives? Something special, not just as a consultant of a restaurant?
No, I don't want to do any consultancies for a while. I want to concentrate on my own brand. We have a brand of products, as you know, called Case Kitchen, and I think it's about time I put some energy into that. So that's the plan for this year. I don't know, it's the first time in my life that I'm actually, I have a clean slate in front of me this year. And I call it the post-COVID slate. So there's several things on the horizon, but nothing which I've said yes to. And I quite like that quasi kind of nothingness for a while. Of course there'll be something, I can't sit still. So there will be something in the next few months, but I'm not quite sure what it'll be. But it will be something in food, of course.
Now I'm going to come to something very special of hers, and then I'm going to do a quick rapid fire, which you're not going to have time to think. I saw Karen in Italy, and she was in her elements. She's influenced so many people. What I saw in Italy was she loves the place, Italians just love her. And from Prosecco to champagne to truffles to... we went on a trip together where she was I really couldn't understand anything that she was doing, because she was making pasta and I don't know what all she was doing. So I was just watching her in absolute, with puppy dog eyes, because nothing made sense and she makes everything look so easy. I was just this and just this and just this, and I'm like, okay, fine. I was one of the few who was not there for the cooking demonstrations. But what I saw was, I saw a real passion for everything. Whether, I can see a few people nodding over here. Whether it was the wine or it was the champagne or Prosecco. I mean, how much Prosecco we drank? Bellinis, yes, I was coming to the Bellinis. The truffle hunting, I mean, she was even more aware of getting that truffle out than the dogs, let me tell you. She knew, everything. And I think that's the passion which comes out in whatever I see in you. So I saw that for Italy, and I saw that for... So is that foremost? I mean, or do you like... I mean, have I not seen it somewhere else?
No, I love traveling. I love Italy. It's in, the last 10, 15 years I've been going a lot. I've now started learning Italian as well. Wow. So I can now talk to my neighbors and so on. Because it's a passion of mine. I love Venice, where I live when I go. I love the way Venice stands still. Nothing has changed there for hundreds of years, whereas in India, everything changes. When I go home to Pune, there's a new building there's something else happening. Venice, I love the idea that nothing changes, except tourism. But no, and I love the simplicity of the food, the life. I love Italian film. So yeah, I think I'm very, very fortunate. I do what I love. Not everybody has that fortune. A lot of people have to do a job that they don't love, or they inherit a business that they don't love, but they do it because it's there. So I've been fortunate in that I wake up every morning to a new day, and I generally love what I do. And I think that's the thing. Whether it's looking at Kanta with you and saying, what shall I, this is one of Shamlu Malika's dupattas, which I converted. So it's whether it's a Kanta dupatta or whether it's food, it has to be. For me, I have to feel passionate.
So before we open up to the audience, I have quick, you can't take time.
Yeah, rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
This is like a coffee with Karan.
Yeah, well, coffee. If you had only one thing you could eat for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Dal chawal probably.
One.
Oh.
Either dal or chawal.
Oh, I can't tell now. Chawal.
Chawal? Okay. Accepted. One food you just can't get yourself to eat.
Oh, any of those things that they do in China and Far East, you know, those little cockroaches and things that they eat.
Something really regular.
Oh, regular. I'll try everything once.
Okay. Yeah, well, I did try, I have to say, I did try reindeer meat.
Yeah.
And I was
How
so
was that?
stressed about it. I don't even know what it tasted like.
I tried moose once in Russia. Very tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was just too stressed about the reindeer meat to really
Enjoy it.
you know. One dish you've tried to cook for the first time recently. I mean, ham in cola, I can understand.
No, ham I do every year.
But
yeah.
in cola.
But in cola.
Yeah.
That's the new one, which came out really well.
Yeah.
Oh, recently, I don't know. I'm just trying to think. I did think about that earlier. No, I'll think about it and tell you in a bit.
Okay, getting minus points here.
Okay, well, nice.
Yes. The first thing you've ever cooked?
Tandoori chicken.
Really?
Yeah, in England.
Wow.
I tried anyway.
Was it nice? Was it good? No.
Well, some people ate it, but I can't remember if it was particularly good.
Okay, I've lost.
Came out of a packet, I remember.
One word that represents your entire food career. I know the word, but you tell me. I can share it after.
Exciting, excitement.
Passion.
Passion, okay. Passion is used a lot. You know.
Okay, so exciting.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. We know your love for good Prosecco and champagne. Would you give up Prosecco for truffles and vice versa?
Oh, truffles I love, but yeah, I give up Prosecco for it, yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, I thought so. Oh God, she took us into this truffle haven. And I think we came out of that meal with a headache because everything had truffle.
Had truffle.
And it was the most amazing meal, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah, you do get a headache.
it was overwhelming. I've never seen so many things in my life cooked with truffle oil or truffle butter or
truffle butter, truffle salt, actually shaved truffles.
Yeah. It was outstanding.
Taptufata, which is a salsa of truffle. I think they put it in dessert as well.
Everything.
Some vanilla, something dessert, panna cotta with truffle, yeah.
So your dream kitchen to cook in and your dream chef to cook with.
Ooh.
Not an Italian chef.
My dream kitchen. Well, I would really like a huge kitchen. I've always wanted a huge kitchen I've got a pretty big kitchen now, but with one big dining table. And the Italians do great kitchens, by the way. By the sea, overlooking the sea, overlooking water.
Okay.
That's what I would love. A chef I would like to cook with? No. I don't know.
Okay,
No.
that's fine.
None I could think of.
Okay. A cooking tip or hack that you swear by?
Oh, a cooking tip or hack. You know, what I think I always say, I carry my portlies with me and all that. There is this, and also my own sauces and stuff, because I think it's good to just put something that's ready-made sometimes. But you get that garlic, that snap-in garlic granules.
No.
I know the best chefs who have that in their pocket.
Really?
Yeah, because when you want to put garlic quickly into something and you can't find it and you can't chop it, they put that snap-in garlic. And it's fantastic, I can tell you. Back pocket.
Okay. I will trust you on that. Which recipe is closest to your heart? Tell us why.
Well, as I said, I think probably that prawn bulchon,
okay.
which you'll get to taste it.
Yes.
Because it's one of my grandmother's.
There is a little bit of it brought in from Pune. So, what is your comfort food? Rice?
Yeah, dal chawal.
Dal
If not dal, then aloo matar and rice. Something with rice. Or even sticky rice and some, like that Chinese rice porridge, chili oil, chili crisp with rice. Anything with rice, a little bit of rice. Yeah, that's my comfort food.
Roadside chart or a Michelin star meal?
I would say roadside chart, apart from the hygiene problem. But I would say roadside chart in your house, like today, for sure.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you what I'm getting tired of in the Michelin meal. And I'm sorry to sound kind of condescending. I've had lots of Michelin meals and they're all amazing. I had one the other night wasn't Michelin, but it was two young chefs from Australia in Pune. It was 12 courses. By the 6th or 7th course, I was exhausted. I mean, really exhausted. I couldn't taste anything. And I think now we're getting into show-off food, and it's really exhausting, and I'm also older now, I can't do this 12-course business anymore.
Okay. You're doing very well. Mine is only one. Everything else, your perfect meal.
Oh, something by the sea.
Something by the sea.
Something by the sea where my feet can be in the sand.
Okay. Last question. There is a huge debate on whether the pineapple fits the pizza. One common pairing that really gets your goat.
Pairing. Not a wine pairing, just a general pairing. I think when they pair chocolate with salty things, yeah, that gets my goat a little bit, because I think you're pushing the boat there. You know, you don't really have to pair chocolate with salt or capers or, I don't know, chili. I mean, and then people say, oh, that's quite nice, but really, is it quite nice? I don't know. I think chocolate's fine on its own.
Okay, so I think she's done pretty well, except for one question which she didn't answer. I don't have a...
Oh, the unusual, what I cooked recently that's new. I can't remember.
So 14 or 15.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. I think we can give her a big round of applause for that. Karan's hamper goes to her.
I always wanted to know what was in those hampers,
Oh, he did open them once.
Was it? Lots of gimmicks and things.
Something, yeah. See, I have a lot of questions. I have lots and lots because she's someone I've really held very close to my heart and followed her, though I don't follow any of her recipes. But we would love to have you ask some questions if there's anything. Grill her. Please, yes.
And the chef was marvellous. He let me in his kitchen and let me see what he was doing. But what really got me was the fact there were children and parents and grandparents all coming out to eat Sunday lunch. And to me, that's good food, right? It's all about sharing. It's the whole family. Often, in America or in the UK, the kids get separate menus. They get what's called children's menus. Why? They're human beings. I don't understand this whole thing of children must have separate food. And I think as soon as they can chew, my children, as soon as they could chew, they ate what we ate. I mean, they have their own likes and dislikes, obviously. But I love that idea of everybody being exposed, and that was a great experience for me.
I can start?
Yes.
Okay, so recently, like today also you spoke about, how chefs are pushing the boundaries in terms of, plating and doing these really elaborate meals. And nowadays we see a lot of modern Indian food put out in several restaurants and, all these really fancy, different kinds of small plating, beautiful looking food. And you must have tried many. So I just want to know your take on it. Do you think this is a trend which is going to stay, or people are going to go back to, wholesome meals, wholesome food, or it's just going to be these, I think every chef is trying their hand on modern Indian food now.
Yeah.
So I just like a little.
I think, Indian Accent started it with Manish, whom I worked with many years ago, by the way, when we did Old World Hospitality, India Habitat Centre together. I was doing the European food for them, and he was doing a restaurant called Oriental Octopussy. And then he went from Asian to Indian, and look where he is. And I think he's really one of the forerunners of all that, and also the chefs in the UK and so on. The chefs in the UK have to do it, because if they don't do plating the way the British want it, people are not going to eat that kind of, or pay that kind of price. So that brings me to, I think, what's going to separate this. It's money. So the sort of curry houses and the things that the dhaba kind of food is going to be there always, and that's at a certain price. And then if you want to charge more, I think chefs feel that you need to do all this plating business. And I have nothing against plating. I think what Indian Accent does is great. But I do I do have an objection to fiddling too much with the food. I don't like this fiddling business and spherifications and all this molecular gastronomy. I'm really not a fan of molecular gastronomy. I know what it intended to be initially, and I think it came from a good space. It came from physics and chemistry and getting flavors together. But now it's just become a trend and a hypey thing, and everyone is doing this verification. It drives me a little mad. But I think they do it to be able to charge a certain price. So I think both are going to continue just because of economics.
Hi. Have you ever thought of opening a restaurant? If not,
Yes,
why?
I had a restaurant many years ago.
Okay.
Called
Now.
Merlot. Yes, I am thinking of it.
So is that what is coming up in your clean slate right now in the coming
I don't
months? Is
know.
it a surprise?
Might be. Yeah, I don't know. But I am looking at it. Finally, at my age of 60 plus now, I'm looking at a restaurant. But I did do one many years ago. Obviously, wasn't the right time. And I did it with, if anyone remembers, I'll know how old you are if you remember. Do you remember Marquise de Pompadour? Remember Indij Wines? So they had, Indij Wines were one of the first wineries in India after the dreadful Bosca wines. And they were in Naranga, and I used to work with them on promotions. They had this very famous champagne called Marquise de Pompadour, which we all used to drink. I think it must have been early 90s, yeah. And we did a restaurant together in Pune called Merlot, and I did the food and they did the wines and so on. And it worked, but we had issues, and after about a year we had to close. And it was nothing to do with the food, luckily, or whatever. It was just circumstances that Indij got into. They got into bankruptcy and so on, and we had to close it. So obviously not the right time or the right place. Maybe now is, I don't know.
I'm more of a traditionalist. I love the old grandmother's recipes.
Yeah, so do I.
Don't like fusion food at all, really. And I agree with you, Panch Foran is something so typical and so fantastic. When I first came from Pune over here and smelt it and tasted it, it was fantastic. Are there other powders, masalas, like I heard of the Bafta masala for the Mangaloreans?
Buffard masala.
Buffard masala.
There's Buffard, there's the East Indian, lots of East Indian masalas. East Indians are the Christian community that live in Bombay. Very old Christian community, a Catholic community actually. Actually older than Goans. And they have a lot of masala. They have this bottle masala. Bottle, it's called bottle masala.
Okay.
Very famous. They make all the base of their dishes with. Like their vendalu and their bol curry and all that has, it's all in the book that I've just done, has bottle masala. And it's got lots of ingredients. So every community, in Maharashtra, we have the Goda masala. So Goda masala goes into a lot of vegetarian Punjabi Brahmin dishes like your badleli wangi and so on, and your pulao. So I think every community has that. When I travel with the Malvani. I call it Malabar, but it's not. It's a Malvani spice that somebody stone grinds for me. I travel with the Kolhapuri, which I love because that's better for meats. The Malvani is good for fish. Even when I go to Italy and I make a fritto misto at home, I put a little bit, but literally a pinch of that, and everybody goes, wow, they don't know what it is, they just love it. A friend of mine actually puts kolhapuri on his pizza, but tiny bit. I put panch foran in my broccoli. Now that's not really fusion, I understand what you're saying, but I think we have to elevate tastes now a little bit, no? So there are these masalas in every community, I think, in India. In the south, you have these fantastic podis. You have all this nalakaran from Hyderabad, and you have the groundnut chutneys, and you have so many podis that you just put on rice, Yes. I was married to a Sindhi for 11 years. There's a lot of Sindhi in the book. I know how to make Sindhi curry, how to make tukalu, how to make sai bhaji, how to make Sindhi mutton, methi machi.
That's it.
I'm happy to eat it anytime.
Your place.
Yes, thank you for such a beautiful evening. I have two questions to ask. How would you relate food to psychology? Because anybody and everybody who's upset takes solace in food.
Yeah.
And it's a very big mood buster. And the second question is, from the vegetarian point of view, what are the kind of things you recommend must try before you die?
Well, that's interesting, both questions. Listen, I'm not a psychologist, I don't know.
I'm
but,
not,
but I'm
so-
sure you are. And I totally agree that,
Yes.
that food is, when you're depressed, you take it out on food.
Even when you're happy, because
Yeah,
in India,
yeah.
all celebration. Unfortunately, even when there's a grief in the family, there is food.
Yeah.
So food is everywhere, from
In
birth.
fact, a friend of mine, who's a dear friend of mine, who's head of the Celiac Society in Delhi, Ishi Khosla. So she said that when you have inflammation, it's also related to sadness.
Absolutely.
It's related to. So I think there's a lot of that. And your second, so yeah, I mean, sure, but you'll be able to tell me more than I can tell you.
No, my question is that do you cook keeping in mind to create recipes to please people and give them a high or
No.
a feel-good hormone or something?
No, I don't cook for that reason. No, not really. But I think if you cook with, I know it sounds cheesy, but if you cook with love and you cook with a positive attitude, I think it's in your food. In your food.
It's not cheesy. I think it's the most essential thing.
No, but often, like for example, I'm saying Italy because I go there often, but even here, if you go to a dhaba or something where people have been cooking, it's like getting a massage, right? You get a massage with somebody who's positive and smiley, the massage will be good, provided they know what they're doing. If you get a massage when somebody's been depressed or had a fight with their husband that morning, it's different, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's the same way with food. And I go to Baroda to a niece's house. She's got this man, this cook, who cooks for 10 people every day. He looks like something out of a Russian novel, like this. And the food never tastes great. And it's just that because I don't think he's putting any
Emotion in it.
any emotion in it. Yeah, vegetarian, very interesting. I'm not. I'm a great one for vegetarian. I'm not a great one for veganism. Because I think that veganism requires a certain discipline that not everybody has. And you have to really think about what... I think it's also a political statement.
Yes, so must try before you die. In vegetarian. Because I'm a vegetarian, so I can relate
Well,
to
the
that
famous
more.
truffle, you have to try truffle before you die.
Okay.
I think anything to do with seaweed. I think it's a fantastic, it's the sixth sense is umami.
Umami, yes.
And umami came from seaweed.
Seaweeds, okay.
So I think you must try seaweed before you die. It's a bit fishy sometimes, but I think it's quite interesting. Truffle because I love it, but what else? In Indian, you know all the things that you have to try. I think cheese is something which is a bit alien to our culture.
Yes.
But it's something which Europe has developed. And it could be, for vegetarians, you eat milk, so that's, you don't have any lactose problems.
Yes.
So that, I think the variety of cheese that you get, especially in France, some of it doesn't even leave villages to come into Paris, it's so particular. I think you must experience that before you go anywhere.
So a lot of people I know, they travel abroad and they go to these fancy farmers markets and they pick up cheese, but they don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
And they end up making it a sandwich out of it. It tastes
Yeah,
awful.
yeah.
So, probably in one of your books or sometime when you write, you could just make a little guideline.
See, a lot of the cheese is not meant for cooking.
Yeah.
It's just meant for eating. So, you just sit there with different ones. But I think it helps to be educated into how to
Exactly. That's
eat
what
it.
I was
Yeah,
pointing
yeah.
at. That
For sure.
if you could, just throw some light on
Yeah, yeah.
people who are just now
And there's,
evolving.
by the way,
in
great
taste.
cheese made in India now.
Absolutely.
There are some people in Delhi, there's some people in Chennai, really like top quality international cheeses. Bangalore. Oh, really? Someone in Calcutta? Yeah. In Bangalore. Father Michael, who makes great burrata. I gave two chefs, I think, the numbers in Calcutta about 10 years ago. Now everyone's ordering. There's Eleftheria in Bombay, that's very good. Mossam, she's excellent. Spotted Cow in Bombay. There's a chap in called Kumauni Blessings, the name of this company in Delhi, that does really good French cheese. So yeah, we're getting them. They're not cheap. But they're all now, because of, thanks to COVID, everyone's realized that you could deliver around the country, you know, so that's a great thing.
Thank you so much.
Karen, your favorite Bengali dish?
Oh, veg and non-veg. The one I had with you, I had the chochuri with you at Sonargaon, which was amazing. Amazing. That was really good. And you know what I really love is Madhushi's recipe of doodh mach. And when I told Anjan about it, Chatterjee, when I met him in London and tried out Chaurangi, I said, oh, but you don't have doodh mach. And he said, what's that? I said, Anjan, you're Bengali. He said, but in my family, I know dahi mach. I said, no, this is doodh mach. And that was her recipe. And I make it very often because it's so simple. And it's so wow in 5 minutes, isn't it? That I love. I think it's more than the malai chingri and all that, which is very well known. Hilsa, of course, hilsa I love. And I think, do you still do it? I think Oberoi still does that filleted. You also do it, the filleted hilsa, which I think is amazing. Or the paturi. That's several dishes. I think hilsa is really the finest fish in the world. I love it.
So then you're a Bengali.
Yeah, I think it's better than salmon. It's better than all these fancy, you know. Yeah, it's really very special. Somebody like Anjan Chatterjee or whatever, I told him, he goes, ha ha. I said, you know, somebody should vacuum it like smoked salmon, right? Or like salmon. You know, vacuum hilsa and sell it around the world. Look at salmon. You know, why are we eating salmon from Norway? No, but you have to make it sexy and make it, you know, like salmon is, everyone goes, oh, salmon. You know, every time someone says salmon, their voice goes up by 2 octaves, you know, like it's something really expensive and special. And hilsa, do we have the same excitement? No, why not?
Bangalis
Really?
Okay, there's lots of stray guys around the place if you need it. Just share it.
What we should do is, like, you know, where they say salmon, caviar and champagne. So we should say hilsa and something, so that, you know, it becomes a kind of...
Rui Mache Deem.
No one, oh, that's not hilsa, palla. Palla, yeah. That's not quite hilsa though, is it? See, I think. But that palla's delicious. With the little bones. The mutton is fantastic. That's also, what do they call it? Photo bono gosh, I think. No? You'll make it. You'll stir it.
Okay, so that was an evening with a difference. Enjoying a slice of Jaipur and Kolkata, and what a beautiful venue. It was a pleasure having Karen Anand in conversation with Manika. On behalf of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, I take this opportunity to thank our guest Karen Anand and of course Manika. I would also like to extend our gratitude to patron Sri Cements Limited, Shamlu Dudeja, and you, our amazing audience, for making this evening so special. Could I request Shamlu Auntie to please come and felicitate Karen?
Oh.
I welcome you to an amazing session on a lovely wintry evening with renowned food and travel writer Karen Anand.
What would be the special taste or the delicacy, or is there something which is really one of your favorites in Bengal? I know puchka, I saw.
Puchka I love. I love panch foran. When I go abroad, I carry my masalas. I've learnt and I've had too many bad experiences where I've gone abroad and people say, oh, can you do an Indian meal for us? And I have nothing with me. And this happened to me when I was in Bali a few 10, 15 years ago. And we stayed with somebody by chance. And I said, what can I do for you? I haven't brought you a gift. And, by the time I get back, I can send it. And he said, no, can you do me an Indian meal? And it was a disaster in that I had to get a taxi and go all around Bali looking for ingredients. So now what I do is I carry my little portlies with me, like an old lady, and I carry a Kolhapuri spice, I carry a Malwani spice, I carry panchfuran. Because I think panchfuran is amazing in whatever you put it with, any vegetable. I go to Italy, they don't know what it is, but I just throw in a little bit. Of course, there's no mustard oil there, but I throw in panchfuran to things. So I think what I love about, to answer your question, about the Bengali palette of tastes and spices is the balance. I think you have a great balance here, and also, unlike North India, and there you will see in the book there's a sort of I don't look at North India at all really, because I think it's been done to death, but it's not overshadowed with red chili. Otherwise, the rest of the country, there's red chili everywhere, and there's a lot of red chili and more red chili as we need more flavor in our food. So, but you don't have that here.
The first thing you've ever cooked?
Tandoori chicken.